ATC, Concorde 0, 4590, you have flames. You have flames behind you. Flight engineer, cut engine 2, Captain Cartier, Marty, too late, no time. Co-pilot, Le Bourget, negative, we are trying Le Bourget. July 25th, 2000. Air France Flight 4590, a supersonic Concorde, took off from Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. 100 passengers, 9 crew, and the promise of Mach 2 speed. Minutes later, that promise erupted in flames, and the legend of Concorde ended in tragedy. This is flight lore, and this was the tragic end of a supersonic dream. The Concorde was unlike anything else in the sky. It wasn't just fast, it was supersonic, capable of cruising at Mach 2, twice the speed of sound, and soaring at 60,000 feet, where passengers could see the curve of the Earth. Developed in the 1960s as a joint project between Britain and France, it became a symbol of progress, engineering, and even national pride. Only 14 ever entered commercial service, flown by British Airways and Air France. With just around 100 seats, tickets cost a fortune. But that was part of the appeal. Flying Concorde was as much about prestige as speed. For 25 years, it carried world leaders, celebrities, and the elite across the Atlantic in barely over 3 hours. To its passengers, it felt untouchable, invincible, an icon of perfection. But on July 25, 2000, that illusion was shattered. It was a warm summer afternoon in Paris, July 25, 2000. Air France Flight 4590 was preparing for takeoff from Charles de Gaulle Airport, bound for New York. On board were 100 passengers, most of them German tourists, excited for their dream trip across the Atlantic. The crew consisted of 3 experienced pilots and 6 flight attendants, veterans of Concorde operations. The aircraft itself, Concorde FBTSC, had been in service for nearly 25 years. Maintained meticulously, it was trusted to perform flawlessly, as it always had. For those watching from the ground, the sight of Concorde rolling to the runway was still breathtaking. Sleek, needle-nosed, and thundering with 4 powerful Rolls-Royce/Snecma Olympus engines. Everything seemed routine. Everything felt normal. But within minutes, history would remember this flight for all the wrong reasons. The Concorde lined up on runway 26R. Engines 1, 2, 3, 4. Brought to full power. The roar was deafening, a sound Paris knew well. Inside the cockpit, the pilots were calm. Speed climbing, 100 knots. Checked. 150 knots. Checked. Everything normal. Then the first ripple. Engine 2. Losing fuel, the flight engineer reported, his eyes fixed on the gauges that were spinning down too fast. At first, it could have been a sensor error. Concorde was a complex machine. But the cabin told the real story. Screams from the rear windows. A passenger pointed in horror. The left wing burning. The control tower's voice cut in, sharp and urgent. Air France 4590, abort takeoff! Abort takeoff! The captain's jaw tightened. The speed was past 180 knots. He shook his head. Impossible. Too fast. He kept the nose pointed forward. Rotate. The white bird struggled off the runway, flames tearing behind it. The landing gear barely cleared the asphalt. The tower gave them priority for landing. But in the cockpit, alarms were multiplying. Engine 2 fire, engine 1 failing. The fire spread, fuel pouring from the ruptured tank. The mighty Concorde was in the air, but it was flying wounded, barely alive. The Concorde was airborne, but only just. The fire on the left wing roared like a torch. Pieces of debris trailed behind, black smoke streaking across the sky. In the cockpit, the voices grew sharper. Engine 2 fire! Engine 1 lost thrust! Now half the power on the left wing was gone. The aircraft tilted, struggling to keep level. The captain pulled harder on the controls, fighting physics itself. The tower's voice tried to cut through the chaos. 4590, you are cleared to land immediately. Priority landing granted. But landing required altitude, and Concorde had none. At barely 200 feet, it clawed upward, its speed bleeding away with every second. In the cabin, panic spread. Some passengers prayed. Others pressed against the windows, staring at the flames eating the wing. The dream of supersonic flight had turned into a nightmare. The captain's voice tight with strain. Too low, too slow. One last, desperate hope reached nearby Le Bourget airport, but the crippled jet couldn't climb. Alarms shrieked in the cockpit, stall warnings, fire warnings, hydraulic systems failing. The control tower saw it all from the ground. The Concorde tilted left, nose up, trailing fire like a comet. It was a sight no one would ever forget. And then, impact. The supersonic masterpiece struck a hotel just beyond the runway. A fireball lit up the Paris sky. 109 souls on board, 4 more on the ground. None survived. Silence fell over the airport. What just happened didn't seem real. In minutes, the pride of France, the world's most advanced passenger jet, was gone. Investigators combed through the wreckage. What could have destroyed a machine so perfect, so invincible? The answer shocked everyone. A simple piece of metal dropped on the runway by another plane had sliced open one of Concorde's tires. The fragments of rubber smashed into the fuel tank, and in seconds, the masterpiece was turned into a fireball. It was an accident of terrible chance. Concorde's design was advanced, but not invulnerable. The smallest flaw, the smallest oversight, was enough to end 113 lives. The world mourned. Concorde had symbolized elegance, power, and the future of air travel. But after this day, its destiny was sealed. The dream of supersonic passenger flight was fading. In 2003, just 3 years later, Concorde was retired forever. The crash of Flight 4590 wasn't the only reason, but it was the one no one could forget. Even today, people ask, was it worth it? Was supersonic flight a step too far, too soon? Or was it simply a masterpiece destroyed by a piece of metal? This was flight lore, because every aircraft has a story. Make sure to check the A-10 Warthog story on our channel.